Let's listen to The Adventures of Tom Sawyer by Mark Twain. Level A1, Oxford Reading University. Part 2. You will find Part 1 in the description.
Tom felt awful. Only he and Huck knew who the real criminal was, but they couldn't say anything. Also, Becky stopped talking to him. Tom felt very lonely and unhappy. He thought that nobody loved him. In the end, Tom, Huck, and their friend Joe Harper decided to become pirates. Tom stole some food from the kitchen. At night, he left home and met his friends. The boys went to the river, took a boat, and sailed to an island in the middle of the river. They made a fire and decided to stay in the wild forever. But the next day, they started missing their home. At night, when Huck and Joe fell asleep, Tom left the island in a boat. He ran to his house and stood under the window. He heard the voices of Aunt Polly and Mrs. Harper, Joe Harper's mother. "I miss my poor son so much," Mrs. Harper said, crying. "I miss Tom terribly too," Aunt Polly replied. "I was too hard on him." "They often behaved badly, yes, but they were good boys," Mrs. Harper said sadly. Tom returned to the island and told his friends about this conversation. The boys started missing their home even more. "Let's go back home right now," Joe Harper suggested. "I think we should go back, but a little later," Tom said. "I have a plan." On Sunday, the townspeople organized a funeral for the boys. Everybody came to say their last goodbyes, and they all were crying. Suddenly, the main door of the church opened, and Tom, Joe, and Huck appeared. That was Tom's plan. Everyone was extremely happy. Aunt Polly hugged Tom, and all the Harpers hugged Joe Harper. Huck stood alone by the church door. "This is not fair," Tom said. "Someone should be happy for Huck, too." Then Aunt Polly hugged Huck. He was very surprised, but also he was happy.
Want to get more English audiobooks? With translations and transcriptions of the words which you don't know? Want to be able to add new words from the books to the list to practice them later? You can do it in the EWA app. You can read and listen to famous bestsellers, short stories, and dialogues for daily life. Go check appewa.com.
At school, Tom and Joe Harper became heroes. Tom decided to stop loving Becky and talking to her. He started spending a lot of time with Amy Lawrence. At the same time, Becky became friends with another boy named Alfred Temple. When Tom saw them together, he felt jealous. Moreover, he got bored with Amy. So he went home for lunch alone. When he left, Becky stopped talking to Alfred. "Becky was talking to me just to make Tom jealous," Alfred realized. He got very angry and wanted to get back at Tom. So he spilled ink all over Tom's textbook. Becky saw it, but she didn't say anything. Soon Tom returned to school and a lesson began. Everybody opened their textbooks. At once, the teacher saw ink spots on the pages of Tom's book. He became very angry. "I will punish you, nasty boy," he shouted. At first, Becky felt sorry for Tom, but then she thought, "Tom hurt my feelings. It's only fair that he is paying for his bad behavior." The teacher beat him with a whip, but Tom didn't make a single sound. The teacher had a mysterious book. He kept it in a locked drawer. During a break, Becky saw that the drawer was open. She was alone in the classroom, so she took the book and opened it. It was a biology book. The first page showed a picture of a naked woman. Suddenly, Tom entered the classroom. Becky was so scared that she jumped. She moved quickly and tore the page out of the book. "Now the teacher will punish me too," she cried in fear. Soon the teacher returned to the classroom. When he saw his book, he got very angry. "I will find out who did it, and I will beat them very hard," he shouted. Then he started questioning the students one by one. "Did you do it? Did you see who did it?" Becky was very scared. She was about to cry. When the teacher asked her the same questions, she was ready to tell him everything. But at that moment, Tom stood up and said, "I did it. I opened the drawer and tore the book." The teacher beat him again, and again Tom didn't make a single sound. For Becky, he became a hero. They soon forgot about their argument and became friends again. Soon summer holidays began. There were many interesting things in town, like an orchestra, a circus, or even a hypnotist. However, the holidays were very boring for Tom. Becky left with her parents for a month. Then Tom came down with a serious illness and stayed in bed for 5 weeks. In July, Muff Potter's trial began. The judge was going to sentence him to death. However, Tom gave evidence and explained what really happened. At that moment, Joe jumped out of the window and ran away. Several days passed, but the police still couldn't find him. One day, Tom and Huck decided to look for treasure. They went to the scary empty house at the end of town. People believed that ghosts lived there. The boys searched the ground floor, then they went upstairs. Just then, 2 men entered the house. They were Joe and his friend. The boys hid and listened closely. "Let's hide our money here," the Indian suggested. They started digging the ground. Suddenly, they found an old chest full of gold. "We can't leave it here, it's too dangerous," the Indian said. "Let's hide it in our secret place." They took the chest and left. The boys were very sad. They nearly found the treasure, but then the Indian took it. And they didn't know where he was going to hide it. A few days later, Becky returned to town. On Saturday, all the school children went on a field trip. They visited McDougal's cave. While the children were having fun in the cave, Tom and Becky got separated from the others. They got lost as they walked through the dark stone tunnels. In one of the tunnels, Tom and Becky ran into Joe. However, Joe got scared and ran away. The children couldn't find the way out. They spent the whole day in the cave. Becky was very hungry, thirsty, and weak. "Are we going to die here, Tom?" she cried. Tom held her hand in his and said, "Don't worry, Becky. We will get out of here, I promise." Soon Becky's mother and Aunt Polly realized that Tom and Becky were lost. They sent some townsmen to the cave to search for the children. However, they couldn't find them. They only found Becky's hair ribbon and the words, "Becky and Tom," on a wall. The children spent a few days in the cave. They had no food and nearly lost hope. But one day, Tom went to explore the tunnels and saw a little light at the end of one. It was a way out. A huge stone blocked most of it, but still, the children managed to get out. They asked for help in a small village near the cave and soon returned home. Tom told everyone that Joe was hiding in the cave. The townsmen went there to catch him, but they only found his dead body. Later, Tom and Huck guessed that the Indians' treasure was in the cave. So the boys went there and found the chest full of gold. They took it to town, and Tom told everyone the story about Joe's gold. Tom took one half of the treasure, and Huck took the other. Now they were rich.
Hit the like button and subscribe to get more audiobooks like this. And now, listen to another English story.